Don't randomly pick color. One of the biggest things that graphic designers and illustrators and painters and whatnot that are just starting out get wrong is color. And today we're going to talk about some very easy beginner ways to think about, deal with, and choose colors. So let's get started here. First off, let's talk about what color is. Easiest way to think about color is to think about it in HSB. And so in your color picker here, you have HSB. And HSB is going to be hue, saturation, and brightness. And in Photoshop, Illustrator, other programs, when you double click on this, you get this kind of like color picker situation. This is the hue. If you go up and down on this, that gives you the brightness or the value. And if you go left to right or this, that gives you the saturation. Okay? And so we're going to continue to go down is darker, up is brighter, right is more saturated, left is less saturated. So let's talk about kind of those colors. So if I take a red, okay, and I color this in, and I come over to my color picker, and I have H, S, and B, this is the best way to mix color. Okay, now we're not going to get into like mixing paint and or light or anything like that. We're just talking really basics of HSB. I can go desaturated here, just by moving this little bar. Okay, and what you'll see is that pink is actually just a desaturated red. Okay, I can also go darker here if I go down. And what you'll notice is that all of these are the same hue. They're all considered the same red. And if I slide this over, I can get different hues, okay? And the different hues are going to be different spots on the color wheel. And you can see that they kind of like rotate through the different colors that are available in the rainbow, okay? And so this is saturation, this is brightness, this is hue. That's basically what we're doing, okay? Now, a color theory is anything that looks good together. The first way to do this is I'm going to switch over to Adobe Capture. Okay, now Adobe Capture is an app that is on your phone. And on your phone, you can come in here and you can do all kinds of cool things. Like I went to the Lunchbox Museum here. We've got all of these things. And it gives me a kind of a color palette of this lunchbox. I've got, World's Strangest there. Okay, or I can go to the books. Let's go through and let's look up that color palette in this book. The first thing that's easy to do is use existing color palettes. And so if you find color palettes that you like, then you can use those color palettes. You can't copyright a color palette, and so they're great. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to come in, I'm going to click on Create, I'm going to go down to Colors, I'm going to click Create Color. It's going to bring up my camera. I'm going to go Scotty Young's Wizard of Oz here. So as I kind of flip through this, if I see page that I like. Here's a lot of really good greens. Okay, I can come in here like this, and I tap on the screen. And then if I want to adjust this, I can go in and adjust. See, it picked up my thumb. So I'm going to drag that over, and I'm going to grab like a darker green there. And so I can come in and I say I want to get this like pale yellow. Okay, and then there is a color palette. Okay, or I could come in and I could say tap to unfreeze, and let's say that I just really like this one panel. Okay, I've got that, and now I'm gonna come in and let's grab some of these colors. We'll get kind of that brighter green, get some of this yellow. Okay, and then I can go in and I can edit this with HSB if I want. I can edit each one. Okay, I can click and drag I can take a look at color harmonies. This is showing me kind of like what's going on in there. Okay, go back to the image and it's showing me where those things are. Okay, and then I can click save and that will show up as one of my color palettes. And you can see that all of those kind of show up here. And so here's my lunchbox themes, and as I click on these, it'll load them into the foreground, and you can use those to paint. And so if I wanted to make a little color palette out of this, I can click on each one of those, and it'll give me all the different colors like that. You can also do this on the Adobe Color website. So if we go to color.adobe.com, I can come in here, I can go to Explore, and if I say something like, I want a calm blue, okay, then it'll bring up a bunch of different color palettes with images of what might be considered calm blue, and if one of those kind of stands out to me, then I can grab it. And this isn't very calm, but I kind of like it. So let's grab this, and you can either add this to your library. I'm going to download the JPEG here. Then I'm going to come over. Let's open up that JPEG. Okay, so there's our little color scheme. Now the cool part about this is we don't have to just stick with these colors, right? As I was saying, you can come in and you can add additional colors without shifting the hue. If you change the saturation and the brightness, you can get a lot of differences. And so if I come in here like this and I eyedrop that, I can come back over here and I can say, give myself a brighter version of that color and an even brighter version of that color, an even brighter version of that color, and you can have that get more saturated. Actually, let's go up, since we said we'd go up as it gets more saturated. Okay, now technically speaking, all of these are within this, right? Which is probably, yep, where that is really close there. Okay, and I can do the same thing here. I can come in and I can desaturate and I can get darker, you know, and if I wanted to use various versions of that, I can go a very desaturated dark, and instead of using black, I can use a very desaturated dark version of that, or a very desaturated dark version of this, right? Or a very saturated darker version of this, right? And that'll feel like it belongs a little bit more. And so as you're kind of mixing in these colors, as long as you don't touch H, all of it will belong in the color palette. Now, quick thing here to remember is that staying out of this area is generally a pretty good idea. This kind of upper right corner, it tends to be too saturated and too bright to feel realistic and calming. And so most of the time, if you have something in your color palette that's up in this corner, you're trying to draw attention to it. Everything else should be lower or to the left. And the reason that you're going lower and to the left with that is because it desaturates a little bit, and then you get that kind of like value contrast, saturation contrast, those types of things, okay? And so generally speaking, that's kind of how color works. Now, lastly, let's come in and let's try to mix our own color. So I'm going to go back to color.adobe.com. I'm going to go to create, and we have all of these different options over here. You've got analogous, monochromatic, triad, complementary, split complementary, square, compound shades, right? And all of these are going to work off of basic color theory. Okay, you're going to have your key color down here, right? And everything is going to kind of build off of this. Like I said before, I prefer to mix in HSB, okay? And so if I go analogous, you'll notice that that means that we have all of the colors kind of in a row, right? You're going to have the colors that belong in a section of the color wheel, okay? You can move these around and you'll see that they all kind of fit. That's analogous, okay? If we go monochromatic, that's actually just one hue, and you're going to have varying degrees of dark, light, and saturation, right? And so the hue stays the same, and that'll be kind of an a monochromatic situation, okay? Triadic is where you're going to split the color wheel, right? And if I come in here and I say, you know what, I'm gonna go in here and I'm gonna edit this. Let's change it a little bit. I can click on change color down here, and it's going to give me HSB, and I can say I want this to be a little bit more. You see how that dot kind of moves in or out as I do this, okay? Or the whole thing gets darker or lighter as I'm kind of doing that, okay? And so all of that is considered the same hue, right? Or what most people might call the same color, okay? But as we kind of do this, darker or lighter, or more or less saturated, it kind of moves that in. And so if I want everything to be a little bit less saturated, I can just pull all of these down. They'll kind of pull towards the center. But if I want a little bit more contrast on some of them, I can increase the brightness. I can increase different things. But this is going to give me a triadic, which is kind of a three-way split. Okay? I've gone custom here because I started messing with it. Complementary literally just means opposites. And so anywhere opposite the color wheel, right? And so you've got orange and blue, okay, like that. You've got kind of a red, orange, and a teal. You've got green and red. You'll notice a lot of like sports teams fall into the complementary. A lot of holidays fall into the complementary. It's just opposites, okay? Split complementary is where you go opposite, but then you split it, right? And so we'll go across here, but then it splits in half, okay? And we'll go across here, and you can kind of do some stuff there to kind of adjust this. Again, in or out is going to give you that that more or less saturated, and then you can mess with this as well. Okay, so that's split complementary. Square, just like it sounds, instead of breaking it up into a triad, it's going to give you four corners of those types of things, and so you can see that those are kind of split that way. Compound, it just keeps it on one side, so it splits it, gives you complementary with a split on the one side. And so as long as you are mixing those types of things, you can come in here. Let's go back to like a split complementary. You can come in here and you can say, I know I want this color, right? This is the color that I know I want in here. What are some other options that I have? And it's going to give you kind of other options that you can deal with that color, right? And so that's kind of how that works. Then you can save it. You can name the color scheme. You can add it to one of your existing Adobe libraries, and that kind of gives you that. So here is the basic thing that I want everybody to understand with color. Don't randomly pick color. Use a color theory, right? A lot of people are out there and they're just kind of like picking colors, or they do the most trite cliche colors for things. Like if you are doing the sky, it's blue, but it's not like a normal blue. It's like the most saturated Crayola crayon blue that you can imagine. Okay. And so as you're doing these things, don't randomly pick colors. Use Adobe Capture, use color.adobe.com, use the tools that you have available to you to kind of work through those colors. And remember, in those color schemes, you can have an infinite number of values and an infinite number of saturation levels as long as you don't change the H, and everything will still work together. Okay, so that's how to choose colors digitally using the Adobe products. If you like this video and you want to do all the stuff, right? Hit the button, do the subscribe, share it, all those types of things. Thanks for sticking around, and we will see you guys next time. Go make stuff.
This is Philip Tommy.